The list of mistakes that can cost you a lot while you're deer hunting is very long. There's a lot of mistakes you can make. I had a video in the past, I think it's over 1 million views, 1.3, 1.4 million views on YouTube. It talks about top 10 deer hunting mistakes. There's a lot of them you can make, but I think this one is ignored too often, and it can really cost you because any time that you spook deer, it negatively imprints in their brain for weeks to come, especially a mature buck who's an independent thinker. I don't think he gets sidetracked by a lot of things that are going on, except for during those week or 10 days during the rut, where it's that peak rut, that prime time. Other than that time, he's got his thinking cap on. He really makes good decisions. He makes smart decisions. So you can't afford to do dumb things. And when it comes to making mistakes, there's a lot of mistakes that can be made. And we're going to talk about these. Gadgets, using calls, rattling antlers, whatever, at the wrong time, wrong place, decoys. A lot of these, especially if they're aggressive, like a decoy is aggressive, rattling antlers, a buck growl, a snort wheeze, those are all very aggressive. And most of those, there is a good application for all of them. You know, almost every tool in the toolbox will be used someday for something. Every tool has a purpose, and all of these have a purpose, but they're a lot smaller purpose and a lower percentage of time that when you're hunting than you probably think. Most of these I don't use. I don't want to use because it's such a small percentage of time that can be used. They can do more harm than good. Then I don't want to use them. I don't live in some of those states, some of that more fantasy land states where, you know, in Iowa, Kansas, where you can do things because there's not a lot of hunting pressure and get away with it and still shoot a monster. I don't hunt in those locations. And so I need to be very careful. I can't afford to make mistakes. So my whole hunting career, my whole passion for all the decades that I've hunted, the 35, 36, 37 years, whatever it is now, I don't know what season it is, right around those mid-30s, but I've had to become a better hunter. No one in my family hunted. So I'd learn by making mistakes. And when I made those mistakes again, I tried not to make them again and again. Some people, they do the same thing over and over and over again, and they just keep making them. But when it comes to gadgets, I've found that if you're in a high pressure state, a lot of times, if you're relying on something that sounds too good to be true, it's because it is, and it can do more harm than good. The grunt call, pretty low impact. Doe bleat, pretty low impact. I carry those often. Grunt call all the time. And so I use them when a deer's going by, and I don't blind call with them. Unless I hear antlers touching brush, and I don't think he's coming my way, I want to try to call him back to me, whether he walks by me. They can do a lot of harm. Hunting too much, no patience. You know, we use HuntWise. HuntWise is something I believe in. HuntCast. I help build HuntCast, that algorithm. That's part of me. In fact, the link's in the description. You guys save 25%. I love being able to pass that savings off to you. There's only a few of us that can do that, and I can do that for you guys. So the link is in the description for that. The bottom line is, I hunt by the weather, and I have for over 3 decades, and that's brought all the success that I could ever imagine while deer hunting, because it helps me make smart decisions. It helps me exercise patience. It helps me use a stand that I don't have much faith in when the conditions are bad, and use my best stands at the best time to maximize the amount of potential success that I can have in the woods. Not going into stands too often. So many people hunt too much. That saying, you can't kill them from the couch, has hurt so many hunters and saved so many bucks' lives because it's kept people out in the woods, over hunting their stands and their laying and ruining everything. I want you to be the one that doesn't do that and collects all those bucks during the season. Really help your hunt out, and you help your hunt by being patient. When it comes down to, that's why there's no certain date that you should go hunting. And you know, the 6th of November, I've heard people, every 6th of November I go hunting. Oh, it's bad weather, don't go hunting. Or maybe sit in a bad stand. But don't put all your faith into one day. Hunt by the conditions, hunt by the weather. Make sure you're not hunting a stand too much, too often. Your best sit is your first sit. Every sit thereafter is diminished a little bit depending on you, depending on the strategy that you employ, how much effect you have. You should ask yourself, what did I spook when I sat in a stand? If I spook something, maybe you don't want to sit there for a week or two. Maybe you don't have a choice, you just go back to the same one. But if you have a choice, that's for people with choices right here. Then you can really help yourself out by exercising a lot of patience and not going in too much. Sound, this is a big one. Noisy stands, noisy walking, your presence in the woods. How many hunts are ruined because you go into a stand noisy? Deer can hear you 200-300 yards away. You can hear a clang and bang metal going in the morning, for example. How many hunts are ruined? If you need to get into the woods early because deer are being pinballed back and forth on opening day of gun season, maybe try a different approach. Try going in slow, quiet. First, I want to thank you guys so much for buying and trying our food plot seed blends. Now, I want to introduce to you our switchgrass blends. And I say blend because we have a southern variety and a northern variety specific to your region. We have a base seed that goes into that's specific to you. And then we have a couple of moderately height stiffening varieties within there so that we can make sure that your stand of switchgrass stays up longer. Check them out on our website. Thank you guys so much. We've sold seed now in over 40 states, and we really appreciate you trying us out. Check out our switchgrass on our site, www.whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. I'm all for getting in there early and allowing other people to push deer to you, but you shouldn't be waiting for the pinball. Like, wow, they're just going to come back because neighbor Joe over there is going to spook them to me. If you're relying on that, you're not going to have a good hunt, because what you're getting back are the leftovers from what he already saw. And if they're going back and forth, that mature buck slips out to the side and finds some place that doesn't have as much hunting pressure. So sound is a big one. Really learn to manage your sound. The deer see you. Obviously you spook them. How you blend into your tree. So many people are sitting way away from the tree. You want to sit with your back against the tree. You want to blend into your surroundings, not be an obtrusive, unwanted guest like most hunters are. Ambush your prey. Let the deer be unsuspecting. They have no idea you're there. But if they can see you, because you stick out like a sore thumb away from the tree, you're not blended in, that doesn't have really much to do with camo. Like, I believe in First Light, the Spectre we have, it's awesome. The camo is outstanding. But it's not about the camo that makes you a good hunter. It's your ability not to move, not to be seen, and to blend and choose your stand locations accordingly. That'll make you a better hunter. But if they see you, same thing as hearing you, they're going to be gone. Smell you. It's a big one because, yeah, if they smell you, they're gone. But your stand location should be located that you're taking advantage of every wind direction in that spot that you can, so the deer don't get downwind of you and smell you. You're using your stand location as your number one form of scent control. Now, we spray down with a limit shield, for example. I believe in a limit shield, spraying down your legs, spraying your boots, so you don't leave a scent trail in the woods. But that scent that's coming from me, there's not much you can do about it. I stink. I went hunting this morning. I walked up 300 feet in elevation. I got pretty sweated up. It took me about 35 minutes to get into the blind. You get sweated up. Nothing you can do about it. Scent is pouring out. But you can do something about the scent you leave on the ground. I think so many people look at it like, I'm going to try to hide my scent. You can't, folks, you can't do that. If it's blowing at a mature buck or doe, they're going to smell you. Sometimes our scent blows at. Dylan and I were out hunting the other day, and we had deer walk around us, almost like a big U, right into our scent. And we weren't using a scent contraption machine. We weren't spraying down saying, well, whatever I spray on me, this is going to keep the deer from smelling me at all. It wasn't that. It was because of the thermals, the way the wind was blowing over the deer because he was so close. But if we were using some type of machine or scent control, we would have said that 100% works. I've seen it work. Well, folks, we weren't using anything, and I've seen that work. It works because you manage where your scent's going while you're on stand. That's a number one form of scent control that are using the thermals. Today, I had to wait 15, 20 minutes after daybreak for those thermals to hit me in the face. I was at risk before that moment. I knew that going in, so when I was walking in, it was gray light. It wasn't shooting hours yet, but it was close. I probably sat for 5-10 minutes before it was shooting light. Because if I sat an hour before, I could spook deer 45 minutes before the day starts and I'm done. But that's pretty easy. You can take control of that during the summertime when you're choosing your stand locations, where you're setting up stands, where you find a great tree out on public land. You can say, I can hunt this stand with these winds, and you just go hunt. Manage your scent in and out. That's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to control if deer see you or not, because if you're blended against a tree, I really encourage you to sit down while you hunt, because you're not as fidgety. I stand here, I fidget and move around. When I'm standing here just talking to you guys, if I'm sitting, I can be very, very still. Dylan's behind the camera right now looking at his phone. He's very still.
Always very still.
and even right now, like, you're looking at your phone, it keeps you from looking around. I don't think a phone's a bad thing. People read a book out in the stand. The same thing, your head's down, you're reading, and you learn, and this is a really important point, you learn to hunt with your ears. Very critical for you to understand that. Learn to hunt with your ears. Don't be looking around at everything. I'll admit you, I make mistakes still. I spooked a deer this morning. I don't even think I told you that, Dylan.
You didn't.
So I'm
surprised you admitted that. I would have went to my grave with that.
I'm admitting it. I make mistakes. So I'm looking at my phone, carrying on a conversation, looking at the phone, and there's squirrels around me. Bunch of squirrels. You know the spot.
Too lackadaisical, didn't you?
Yeah, you start hearing like, That's squirrel. It's all these squirrels, these stinking squirrels. That's what you're thinking. It's like they're chasing each other one time, and it was a little rise. I thought it was a couple of coyotes going by. I'm like, what is going on? And just squirrels making a bunch of noise. You hear them all of a sudden. It sounds like a buck making a scrape. No, it's a squirrel. He was just in a bunch of oak leaves mushing around. So all of a sudden I hear and so thinking squirrel kind of on the brain, I just went like this and looked right behind me and 10 yards away. It looked like a button buck. I'm hoping that's what it was, but it just ran away. And it was right there. And it probably saw my head turn like that. And, you know, I was blended in well. And in that case, I kept them, I allowed them to see me by just being stupid, moving around, even though I was sitting down. But when you're standing, it's even worse. Your whole body moves. They don't like seeing standing figure of a man out in the woods. You can control if they smell you. You can control if they see you by blending in. Just think about how you can blend in. Think about how you can blend in if deer actually had guns. How can you hide there before you actually shoot them? You know, jump out. And that's where sound, to me, this is probably the number one mistake that people make out there, noisy clothing, even when they're drawing back. Their jacket rubs against a tree. When they're climbing into their stand, it's a noisy stand. Maybe they ting. Maybe you pull your bow. Hit your gun barrel on the inside of a blind. Make that knocking noise. You stomp too hard when you're going in the woods. Heel down, hard. What does a deer do when it's alerting every other deer in the herd that something's around? They stomp their foot. They make that noise. We make that noise. It's not a good thing. You got to tiptoe and be quiet. You're better off just walking on leaves, taking your time, than even trying to pretend you're a deer running through the woods. I've done that in the past. And that does work at times, but at other times you're just alerting more deer to your presence. Bottom line is there's a lot of hunts ruined before it even becomes daylight because you made too much noise going in. How you access, always better to blend. Always think about that. If deer had guns, what can I do to be more quiet? From stand locations, blinds, knocking on the inside of the blind, scraping your coat or jacket against a tree or the inside of the blind. I believe sound, relating to sound, has a negative impact. I mean, if they see you, if they smell you, yeah, but sometimes they can hear you 200 yards away, and if you're using ATVs to get into your stand, it's different when they bait, like up in Saskatchewan where we're at, or down in Ohio where they bait, or Kentucky. They're baiting by ATV. That's a little bit different. You're conditioning the deer to come right in after you leave. Most states, it's illegal to do that. So ATVs just mean people, because you're just dropping off people, not food. Bottom line is sound can really kill a hunt, really hurt you. Think about it as you're navigating your access, climbing into your stands and hunting while you're on stand. Are you managing your sound? This morning I had a choice. You know, I didn't need to look real quick and turn to my left and spook that deer. I was perfectly hidden. I just made a dumb decision. But sound is something we have to think about in a lot of different areas, and it's something that takes place in the woods right at that time. We can manage our scent by making smart decisions in the off-season, navigating this, but when it comes to actually drawing back on a deer, for example, alerting deer when you're there, learn how to manage your sound, and you'll learn how to potentially avoid some of the most costly mistakes that happen in the deer woods this fall. I urge everyone out there to really check out my web classes. They've been wildly successful. We have one that details how you should design your land, another one that details how you should plant and maintain and manage a food plot program. How can you make those decisions that fit your land specifically and not someone else's? Unfortunately, there's so much information in the hunting industry that says you should do this, but it doesn't apply to you. These web classes directly apply to you. And then we have our third web class that came out last year, Rut Web Class, navigating the entire rut. And then we have our fourth one coming out, which is hunting hills and thermals. I urge you to check those out, try the web classes, and they're all about teaching, helping you understand how you can navigate, not only managing your property, food plots, and the rut, but also hunting strategically, hills, thermals, and wherever you pursue whitetails for your dream and your passion.